It's something every musician loves doing, but we're so frightened just before we do it. Playing live. Musicians live for it. Well, today we'll talk to Sam Grow about preparing for a big gig. Plus, even in a healthy economy, recording costs are tough on new artists. So thousands of musicians are doing it for themselves from recording studios at home. We'll talk today also to JC Cassis about creating a recording space in your home. These things are coming up next because you're in The Simmer. Welcome to The Simmer, your online entertainment show for musicians. I'm your host, Michael Thurston. You know, high school seniors don't decide what they'll wear to the prom just an hour before the big event. Those preparations are made weeks, even months in advance. Well, the same holds true for music artists preparing for a gig. We wanted to know exactly what a musician goes through when preparing for a concert, so we called up Sam Grow. Singer-songwriter Sam Grow recently played his first big gig in New York at legendary venue The Bitter End. A few hours before his set, we talked about how he got those first few gigs of his solo career.
Playing for free. I live in Southern Maryland, and it's a very much pay your dues kind of place. I was fortunate enough to meet a guy who owned a coffee shop, and that was my first gigs ever. I would play there all the time, and the guy would pay me like as if I was an employee. So I would start making $6.45 an hour. You know, you start off and you start bringing people in, and that's how it turned out.
After booking a small gig, or even before playing a big show like The Bitter End, I asked Sam if he has any interesting ways of promoting his shows.
Yes. Yesterday, I played 2 open mics in the city, which was amazing. You know, in Southern Maryland, open mics are very small, and this is the first open mic that I waited 2.5 hours to get to my slot. So, and there's just so much talent. It was unbelievable. It was such a good time. You know, it was almost like playing with secondary.
And I wanted to know what Sam goes through on the day of a show.
Normally, the minute I wake up in the morning, I'm nervous, and that's always a ritual for me forever. If I'm not nervous in the morning, then there's something wrong. So I'll go throughout the day and just kind of think about what I want to do, and on the way to the venue is really when I start my whole seance thing. I do some cough drops and listen to some music, and just try to get myself into a zone until I get to the venue.
Yeah. Sam told me how he went from playing gig after gig in Maryland to booking a show in a venue like The Bitter End.
I'm blessed. It's, meeting somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody until you end up doing things like this. So
after you release a new CD, you play the same tunes quite often. So now that Sam is in the enviable position of regular gigs, I asked how he and his band keep that same music fresh.
In Southern Maryland, we don't do hour-and-a-half shows. We do, 3 hours, 4 hours, and we play straight through. We don't take any breaks. So, there's always redeveloping of songs. So it's always different. We never do the same thing twice. I mean, a lot of my guys, they've been playing for, 30 years. So I can kind of learn something, and I can turn to them and just go for it. And they normally, if it's in the right key, then they're right there.
I wondered, after landing a gig in a club like The Bitter End, is Sam ready to take a break or what?
You always want to strike when the iron's hot. That's what I've learned, in the business so far. You never want to sit and wait for something to come to you. There was a saying that I heard once that if you focus on making yourself great, and always crafting yourself, these opportunities will, present themselves. So that's kind of something that I've lived by, and it's worked so far. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, I guess.
If you want to see Sam live, and I do recommend it, you can check out his upcoming shows at samgrow.com. Well, FYI, DIY is the way to go right now in the recording industry. Musicians from aspiring jazz trombonists to huge rock stars are doing their own thing from home recording studios. New York City-based JC Cassis recently made that decision and took that plunge herself. In addition to being a multi-talented performer, musician, and songwriter, JC Cassis is impatient, and that, in the end, forced her to create her home recording studio.
In the fall of 2006, I started writing songs with a guitarist friend of mine, and I soon realized that depending upon somebody else was not going to work for my goal of getting things done as quickly as possible. Everybody has their own projects going on, and they're not going to be as invested in my project as I am. So I realized, as hard and as long of a slog as it might be, I'm going to have to learn everything on my own and set up my own studio.
Having put together a studio strong enough to record her debut CD in, I wondered about the components of her recording space.
I started out with just the iMac because that was, the center of everything. When I worked with a producer friend, he had been working with Reason and Pro Tools, so I picked up Reason and Pro Tools. This microphone I've had since college, and I used to use it to perform with my band in college, and I just figured I don't want to spend another $600 on like a super fancy microphone. This one I'm sure will be fine, and it actually has been totally fine. I used Reason to make the audio tracks and GarageBand to put them all together. What I found is that I can do everything I need to do to be able to go into a professional studio and have it mixed and mastered and it sounds just like the radio, so I can do that at home and then just get it professionally finished. Being able to prepare everything at home and then bring it into the studio solely for mixing and mastering saved me incredible amounts of money.
After she'd recorded a few toe-tapping tracks, I asked her how she began selling her music online.
For iTunes, there's a couple of different services. There's CD Baby, which will, you can ship them your hard copy CDs, and they will sell those to people. They will also put your stuff on iTunes and various other places on the web. I went through a company called TuneCore, which I highly recommend. You just deliver them your professional quality tracks. You upload album art and do everything else they need you to do, and just pay them $20 to store an album in their server for a year, and you pay 99 cents per store. So if you want your album up for a year, in just the iTunes US store, it would be a total of $20 plus 99 cents. They deliver it to iTunes. It should get there in about 6 weeks. People can buy it, and when they do buy it, out of the 99 cents per song price, you get 70 cents. You never give up a copyright.
In 2007, before recording her CD and bringing it to iTunes, JC won Amateur Night at the Apollo Theater. Of course, I asked her about this experience.
The thing about the Apollo that's amazing is that if you're talented, you will get on stage. I've auditioned for American Idol now 5 times, and I've seen the best singers I've ever heard in my life get turned away without a word. And the best people get turned away, mediocre people get turned away, terrible people get turned away, freaks get turned away. I don't know how people get on TV with that show. But with the Apollo, what's great is if you've got something that people might want to see, you will get on stage in front of a huge audience. What's so unique about the Apollo is that it's probably the only place that you'll ever perform where people are excited about the idea of booing for you. As I went on in the competition, I did 4 live rounds. The crowd got more and more bloodthirsty. In the first audience, I had 3 people booing out of 500 or whatever, and I don't, it could have been my dress, it could have been my song. The second time, it was maybe 20% boos, 80% cheer. In the third round, people were pretty bloodthirsty, and it was 35% booing. And then the last round, it was 50-50 death match in the audience. I did get through it, and then that was that. So it's just a very unique experience because you will never perform for an audience like that anywhere.
To check out JC's latest video for her song Texas Boys, you can check out her website at jccassis.com. Well, we're at the end of another episode of The Simmer, but until next time, keep working on respectable musicianship. I'm Michael Thurston for The Simmer.